Welcome back to episode 140 of the Real Life Caddie podcast. Good morning, Zabbo. How are you?
Good morning, G. Good to be back. Good to be back here in the lab.
Back in the lab.
We
back
are.
in the lab.
Yeah.
Special guest as well.
Well, I don't know about special, but we do have a guest. Good old Eddie O. He's back in the house.
I wouldn't know about good either.
Good to be back, boys.
Welcome
Even
back,
with you,
Eddie.
Gordon.
Zabbo, what we got?
We got Caddie Stories, couple of podcast listeners, Caddie for. Good to have them on time. Dion and Barry, we'll talk about them. Also got one, we've talked about don't take the request. I had one of those. Car week was in town and work was a little slow. I took a request. Probably shouldn't have.
I carried for the most angry person ever
That's surprising.
in almost 30 years.
Well, that's saying a lot for you.
Eddie, what you got to talk about today?
Caddie Stories in my golf game recently. And
Or lack thereof.
Or lack of, correct, yes.
The struggle is real.
Real, folks.
Well, let's get cracked on. Michael, we'll start with you. What you got, please?
You know, I realize you tell me sometimes, Zabbo, take your notes, put them down. And before we started this podcast, I was looking back, and I totally would have forgotten about this story had I not looked back at my notes. So I'm coming to realize taking notes is important. You know, recently we had Car Week in town, which is, the Concours d'Elegance, one of the biggest car shows in the world.
No. Le Concours des Règles.
Yeah, exactly. And beauties during that week. I have a couple of stories from that. One of them involves me driving and getting pulled over doing 23 miles an hour, but we'll talk about that later. But anyways, so that's a slow week for the golf courses, right? Because it's the 1 week that the golf course is a little slower. The week course is shut down for the week because they have, the match play tournament for the NCGA or whatever. So I'm not really working that week, so I'm kind of taking whatever I can get. And, the office, we've always talked about this. They call the office and ask for you to caddy for them. And I always say, no, I'm good. I'll turn it down. If they don't have my number, I don't want to call them.
Yeah.
I don't want to caddy for them. So anyways, I get the call from the office. You have a request at the big course at 2:30 on Tuesday. And I'm like, 2:30 big course Tuesday. I'm like, well, I'm not going to work otherwise. Like, yeah, you know what? Let's do it. So I'm all depressed thinking, I go in there and it's going to be a 5.5 hour round, 2:30 at the big course. You know how slow it is in the afternoons there. I get there. And to my surprise, they have like an owner's tournament that day, a shotgun in the morning. We're the first tee time of the day. It was an 8 o'clock shotgun, nobody in front of us.
Oh, tremendous.
So super stoked about it. I'm like, we're going to get out there. We're going to play in 4 hours. This is going to be beautiful. I walk up to the tee, trying to find out who these players are, how they know me, how they got the request. I see these two young dudes. I'm like, those are my guys. Those are my guys. And I'm like, Richie, is that them?
Is that them?
Steve and Jill? And he's like, no. Steve and Jill. I'm like, well, obviously that's not Jill, but Jill's over there. And Steve, he looks like he's at least 9,500 years old. And I'm like, we got a blue flag, right? He's like, oh, yeah, you got a blue flag. You're going to need it. I'm like, all right. So I meet him. And they're like,
you've got an EMT as well.
Oh, dude, you have no idea. I thought we were going to play in 4 hours. We got in 5 hours, and we were pushing it at that. We had the blue flag. Not only, we're driving right to the ball, but and he's kind of in the passenger seat. I'm driving. She's walking. She's younger, and she's well capable.
Of course she is.
Yes, of course. And yeah. So not only does he, getting out of the cart to struggle, but then I'm off to the side of him. I have to pull the cart around so I'm right next to him so he can, because it's going to take him at least 40 to 50 seconds to get in the cart. It was brutal.
Torture.
Brutal. So, we got through it, but just another lesson. Don't take the request.
How did they know you?
So it was a golf pro down south that I've caddied for numerous times. I know him well, and certainly I texted him right after and said, hey, bro,
Don't do that.
Give me a heads up before you send them. But, he properly prepared them for pay, and the pay was...
Oh, so you get paid okay?
Oh, yeah. The pay was good. I was happy I took the job, but it was the whole time I'm walking around, I'm thinking, this is why you don't take the request.
I got one of those yesterday. I got a text message from the office, and I passed the job on.
Mm-hmm. I got one yesterday, too. It was a 4-day job in November. I'm like, yeah, I think I'm good, bro.
I know. That's it.
Does anything make you happier when you show up at the tee and your group has a blue flag, though?
Oh, the blue flag's
I don't
nice.
care how bad your day is. When you see that blue flag, there's a light that goes off.
Eddie the workhorse over here.
Especially me.
Eddie, I'll tell you how bad it is. I was away for a couple of weeks there, back to the homeland, and I had a couple of jobs we organised. We can discuss one of those shortly.
We'll discuss a couple of those.
During the round, Zabbo sent me a photo because you and he were working the job together, and Zabbo sent me a photo. Now this is the LV King to my left.
I remember this.
And he then sends a photo of you. So I think Zabbo's turned into a lazy bum. And he sent a photo of you saying, Eddie working hard.
And his player was like carrying the golf bag, right?
And he was walking down the side with a cup of coffee.
It was a shadow loop. It was one of the rookies coming in.
It was, yes.
And I had to show him how to push the trolley around or carry the bag.
The only shadow in the history of August at the resort.
I was actually working with Eddie not long ago, and I had this down in my notes. We discussed a couple of episodes ago about should caddies really hit balls or not. Mm-hmm. Eddie loves to hit a shot out there and show his talent. But
correct.
As I was actually my 4 minutes of preparation for this episode, I came across something that we were working together back in June, and Eddie's hitting balls left, right, centre, and his player wants to. He's a very, very generous character. His name's Kalo. Just wants to throw money around, and
shout out Kalo.
He keeps on challenging Eddie. Here, if you hit the green, he'll give you 100. So they get to 60s in the wee course.
Eddie's up about 2K.
He goes, I'll let you win another 100. And he's 100 yards out.
Okay.
Kalo's like a 93 handicap, right? He shouldn't be anywhere near a golf course.
Yeah.
Hits it to about 15 feet.
Kalo does?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Eddie missed the green.
Oopsie.
Eddie the pro.
Wow.
But, the job I was telling you about, so the one that I did organise for you boys, it's a guy from Texas, unfortunately. Good guy from Texas.
He's from Texas?
Yeah, well, he's obviously not a good guy.
We wouldn't know, Zabbo.
We wouldn't know, you're right.
Well, he had hit me up about a month before the job, looking for... gives the usual, okay, we're coming in, 4 guys, 3 days, whatever it was. We're looking for caddies. And I say, well, do you want doubles? Do you want singles? Oh, no, money's no object. We'll take singles. Mm-hmm. So I'm away. I said, I can't make it. So I put you guys in contact. I said, these are your 4 caddies. This is what you got to pay them. And then I'm sitting in my living room trying to watch telly back in Scotland. And Zabbo's texting me going, I think you got the wrong times. And I'm going, I didn't get the wrong times. I know for a fact I sat and went through my calendar and my text messages and I hit everyone up. It turns out the guy, they changed the tee off times and the boy never let you know.
This was like a perfect storm of things happening where it was so bizarre. So we showed up, the 4 of us, Eddie included, a couple guys, and we get there, and I'm talking to the caddy manager, and I said, do you have, and I did ask him, I said, do you have the names? They said, no, they never gave us the tee times. Look back at our text message, said he's going at 11:50 on this day, 7:30 the next day. Perfect. Mm-hmm. Find out that it's a 4-man scramble. This is a tournament where there's like 30 tee times. They're playing a 4-man scramble. I'm like, why the hell would they want four singles for a 4-man scramble? I was like, there's no way they're playing a scramble. These guys... a lot of times that happens. It's a paid-for tournament. They have a scramble tournament. They decide we're not here to play a scramble. We're going to play our own balls. I assumed that was going to happen. Mm-hmm. So I talked to the manager. They said we don't have the name. So I'm like, all right, whatever. We'll go up there for the 4 singles. So we go up for the 4 singles. They paid for him in the pro shop. I meet my guy. He's like, oh, you're gonna. Me and Eddie are standing up there. He's like, you're gonna have a tough day caddying for me. I'm terrible. I'm like, yeah, well, it's all good. We've seen it all. We're playing a scramble. He's like, yeah, we're playing a 4-man scramble. I'm like, well, this is bizarre. I'm like, so you know Big G? He's like, no. I don't know Big G. And then, so they paid for the four singles. We're on the tee. Second guy comes up. I'm like, hey, what's your name? He's like, Tom. I'm like, hey, Tom, what's going on? You know Big G? He's like, no, never heard of him. They said something about that in the pro shop. So the last guy, Mike, comes up after I already talked to the third guy. And I'm like, so you must know Big G pretty well. And he's like, never heard of the guy. They asked us in the pro shop. They're like, yeah, we were wondering why they put us with 4 singles, but we're like, whatever. So we paid for it. So like, we're out there on 2. I'm like, this is just not right. Obviously, we're with the wrong group. They're playing a 4-man scramble. We're doing 4 singles. Oh, it's brilliant. You talk about the easiest job in the world. So that's when I started texting. I'm like, something's wrong. Yeah. And then he responded with, they changed, or no. He said, no, it was always 12-10.
Yeah, so this is where the boy gets into it, because anyone that knows me, I am pedantic. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You know that, Eddie. Zabbo knows that. So. And I'm just trying to sit and watch, enjoy a wee bit of telly back home. And my organisation is now getting questioned. I'll question my organisation, but no one else can. And I'm going through my texts. Then I find the original text. I send it to Zabbo. Then this guy tries to lie. These were always the times.
Mm-hmm.
Oh dear, red rag to bull. I just felt the blood going to my face.
Yeah.
And I'm circling text messages, check again, wrong. I don't know, did I get aggressive?
I mean, as aggressive as you can get through text message.
Little bit. And then I says, you need to pay these guys.
Yeah, you did.
You messed up.
Radio silence after that.
And then he says, oh no, they changed it. I thought they'd let them know, or the caddies would look for my name. I'm like, no. You had Zabbo's details. You could have got in contact. Don't worry, I'll make it right.
It was a perfect storm of like, why would you pay for 4 singles when and
the
then
irony of it all.
Yeah, and then
generally when you have a scramble, there's one caddy because you don't need a caddy for every single person in the group because they hit from the same spot.
Exactly. And you talk about the easiest day in the world. Eddie on the 10th hole took off his clothes and jumped in the ocean. He went swimming. Literally. Eddie, it was warm out, and Eddie was like, you know what, we're not doing anything. He stripped down to his skivvies, went for a swim in the Pacific.
I asked Zabbo if anyone's ever done, and he said, I've only heard of one other person. It was like 80 degrees that day. It was just a perfect storm of events.
Yeah. And actually, I didn't witness it because, it was...
You were working
because he was working.
Well, no, not at all. Not at all. There was food. Food was covered.
Zabbo was getting his hot dog.
I went in to get a hot dog, and I come out and I'm like, Eddie, did you go in? And he's just dripping for like you could see the water through his boxers, and yeah, he went swim for a little dip.
It felt great, and I still had time to put on my clothes and get changed.
Did he have a 2-piece?
I did.
I wore my unitard.
Yeah.
Well, it was like last week again. I followed it up, didn't I? And just said, "Hey, Stewie,
Yeah.
did you ever hook this up?"
And of course, they ended up they didn't have 4 singles for him by the time he teed off, so they took 2 doubles and they played their own ball. They weren't playing a scramble, so that it made sense. So they were going to play their own ball. I mean, it was funny. We finished and our guys where somebody asked, like one of the other caddies was like, "Hey, you guys like this? You want to do this?" Like, "Oh yeah, we'll take 4 singles tomorrow too." And I think they went with him. Eddie and I bounced out on the job. We're like, "No, we're good."
Good riddance, boys. It was amazing though being a part of that. 4 people in a scramble, like 8 people trying to read a putt. I'm just on the side drinking my coffee.
It was pretty crazy. I thought it was the easiest job in the world.
What could be easier?
What could be easier until 2 weeks later, or a week and a half later, they had this. It's called the APGA Tour. It's this tour. They play all over, but so they get to the Wii course. They have a 3-day tournament at the Wii course, and it was our caddy company is contracted with the resort that they have to use our caddy services for anything that comes through if it's not the AT&T or certain other tournaments. So this was during resort play, but it was this APGA tournament. So they had their own caddies, but they had to use our caddies. So what they did is they were playing in twosomes. They put the twosome on an Elwee. The caddies walked along. We couldn't give advice. We couldn't give yardage. All we could do was drive the Elwee. And let me tell you, you talk about easy. Just drove the Elwee all day. I sent you a couple of pictures of probably the laziest caddy in the world. Not Eddie, another caddy. And he was just eating it up. It was not very lucrative, but I was like, he's going to be with us all 3 days. And sure enough, he was.
I remember caddying in the 90s, doing like scrambles and things. And you let the senior caddy in the group just read the putts and stuff and thinking it was easy. See, now I can't do that. I like to be the one that's
get involved.
Otherwise I get bored. Like
I know, it's
a job that's so easy.
It's
you'd
too
be
boring.
well sitting at home.
I know,
and you know you're not going to get money.
Exactly. Oh, you know on this one
Like if we're going out to the golf course, I want to maximize what I'm going to get paid. I don't want to go out there for scrap.
for sure.
And saying that, just at the weekend there, really bizarre. I hadn't even written this down. I turn up at the course and I see the name Pan up on. There's 4 or 5 groups. Pan. It wasn't Peter Pan.
No, that's red flags.
That's big red flags.
Red flags.
But I'm thinking, hey, whatever. It's I got to do it. I'm here. One of the other caddies, Can Diddler, he didn't fancy it, and I was like, well, if you don't fancy the first group, there's 5 of them, so you're gonna be waiting for about an hour before you can skip Peter Pan and Tinkerbell. So all of a sudden, there's a bunch of Asian chaps and women, and it looked like translators and all sorts, and there's a lot of hustle and bustle. It was like Shanghai, and I thought Friday night, and we're trying to work out who's with who, and then I meet these 2 ladies. I think Maggie and Norway, not the real names, I guess. And
so you actually decided to go with this group?
I had no other choice. Like, come on,
you're not going to be that guy.
Yeah,
So
might as well do it.
And we get to the first tee. He says, "You guys in the first group?" Yes. I said, 10-10, yes. Very, very, it was hard to communicate, and Hello Kitty and all that kind of jazz and whatever.
Staff bag, most likely.
Yes.
And then there's all the carts turn up in the first, round the side. 6 guys tee off. Six men tee off. And I'm looking at my ladies going like, what's going on here? And then the guys, 4 guys drive round, 2 don't. 4 guys just drive off. And I'm looking at the ladies and I'm like, aren't you the first group? And they're like, first group. Like, well,
they don't know what that means.
And one guy's going, oh, you do, go. So I'm going, okay, well, guess me and Candidler. So we just like run off after these guys.
So you're caddying for the dudes now.
We're now got the guys. And I tried to speak to one of them about 150 yards out at the cart path. I said, hey, listen, mate, really kind of complicated, huh? Strange. It's funny how when you speak to a foreigner, you start like talking like them. You're like, oh, very, very complicated, huh? So,
that's true. That's funny.
The boy looks at me and I go, what is your 150 club? 150? 150? And he looks at me, he shakes his head and then he wishes me away. Like,
I'm good.
So I'm thinking, okay, fine, this is going to be one for the books. I'd said to Candidler, I said, hey, listen, Jeff, I said, don't worry about it. You're here to support me and I'm here to get you through this too. And we'll talk about this for many, many months and years to come. We get to the green, we read the putts. One of them, we get to the second tee, one of them had one of those 40,000 or 25 grand drivers. Yeah, one of those. I tell Jeff that. And he goes, oh, fantastic. Maybe we'll get paid well today. I was like, no. Don't start thinking money. We tee off, we get down the fairway. Next thing, a guy and a girl turn up in a cart. And the guy's like, to us, the caddy goes, oh, no caddies. I'm like, huh? What? He goes, they don't want you. Go back. I'm like, so we're not working. I'm like, this is getting even better. Listen.
So the first group didn't want caddies.
Well, apparently, until about maybe 100 yards later, when we're walking back, he goes, no, one. And I'm looking at Jeff, and I'm going, well, I ain't going, no chance. And then he's just like shaking his head. We went, no. So we walked back.
So you and Candidler walked off.
Well, you can't. Have us and then tell us no, get kicked off the job. And there was no way I was going to go out there for 5 hours with that.
Yeah.
No way. With 2 people, at least you can bounce off each other.
Yeah.
But no.
So
Not
you just walked in?
We walked in, and then every group behind had 2 caddies, so I'm guessing they paid for them. But you know what? It's not my problem.
Did you go with the group in another group?
No, I went home.
So after all that, you did decide to go home.
Well, I was looking at about half a lap. It was another hour. I'm not waiting an hour for.
You're like, I don't need this.
I don't need this. So, technically, I get my money. I get paid because I did the job.
Oh, you did?
Oh, well, 100%. I'm on the court. I caddy for a hole.
You went on the first hole, yeah.
And it's not my problem.
It's not.
How do I get in the golf course without someone paying?
Yeah, they sent you out there.
And then they send me out there.
I'm with you. I've held them to that before too.
Yeah. Then the translator tells us, oh, no, they don't want you. And then 100 yards later, well, they do want one of you. And, I'm sorry, you've lost your privilege at that point.
Agreed.
So
done.
So you got paid for...
I don't know yet. I'm going to find out.
That's funny because I actually caddied in the AT&T a few years ago. And if you got paid for one hole, I told the guy... we came back after a rain delay to play 3 holes the next day.
Horrible.
And he goes, what should I pay you? I'm like, is it full rate?
Yeah.
And I told him, I'm sorry, John, there's no 3-hole rate.
Exactly. You got me out here.
This guy, he worked for an undisclosed company, but clearly he didn't pay for the event, and he got a little red in the face when he realized he had to pay me full rate for the 3 days when he's saying
Sorry about your luck.
Yeah, sorry, pal.
Yeah. You book a hotel for the night, you stay for an hour, you don't get your money back.
Oh, you know all about that.
You getting shooed away. Actually, something similar happened to me recently where I was with a guy, and after a couple holes, he started, he was hitting a few bad shots, shocking, right? And then at maybe the second, third, or fourth hole early on in the round, he tells me, you know what, Eddie, just let me get my clubs the rest of the day. Because I was handing him clubs, I was making sure they were clean, attempting to, pretending to work, right?
Pretending to care.
So, he looks at me. He looks at me very angrily. He says, "Eddie, just let me get my clubs the rest of the day out of the bag." I'm like, "Sure, perfect." And some people in the past, a younger Eddie would have responded like negatively, saying, like what's this guy's problem? But I think, all right, perfect. Less work for me to do, I guess.
Sure.
And as you guys know, it's not my forte.
Yeah, I get it.
But on one hole, I shot it. I don't know, what was it, 140. So he grabs his.
You actually shot it?
I shot it. Yeah.
Oh, you didn't just eyeball it?
Yeah.
Pretended to shoot. The battery wasn't in there.
The battery was working in the laser this time. But there has been times where I pretend to shoot, whether it's because I'm pretty good at guessing the yardages, or just the battery's dead, or I just
doesn't want to waste.
I don't want to waste the battery.
He doesn't want to waste the battery. That's what it is.
But ultimately, so what happens was the guy grabbed the club out of his bag. It's 140. So he grabbed his 9-iron. He thought he hits it 50 yards over the green, and then looks at his club and realized he got the 6-iron instead of the 9.
Love those guys.
How can you do that? How could you possibly do that?
I've seen it 10 times in the last 2 months. More often than not, with the rental clubs, you get brand new players. I had this guy at the week course, and I'm like, hit your 125 shot. So he grabs what he thinks is 7-iron in the rental set. What do they always grab?
A lob wedge.
It's a lob wedge. He's standing over. He's about to swing. I'm like, Kyle, hold on. I'm like, look at the club. He's like, what? That's not my 7-iron? I'm like,
No.
Look down. That's an L. That's not a 7. That's your lob wedge. And it happened to like 3 different players in the last. It's crazy how they're just clueless. They think lob wedge is a 7.
I don't know how you can get that.
Yeah.
How can you not distinguish between a lob wedge and a 7-iron, or even a 6 and a 9?
A 6 and a 9, you should be able to, but a lob wedge and a 7-iron, come on,
guys.
Don't be an
Pay
idiot.
attention. So.
Like, are you enjoying caddying any more than you were the last time, or?
You know what? Actually, I am.
Yeah.
I
Good.
am.
Oh, you've embraced it.
I've embraced it, big fella.
Does that tell us something about the golf then? Like, tell us a little bit about the golf, because that's been about a year since you told us about the golf.
So I've been playing a little bit recently. What's today? Today's Friday. The other day I played the pre-qualifier for the PGA event up in Napa next week.
Yeah.
And so I've been playing and doing some practicing up into this event, and I'm playing with some friends the other day at my home course at Seascape, and I go out and I shoot a 62. I was like, it was
nice. Game on
the day before the tournament, so I'm feeling good and confident. And then of course get to the qualifier and just can't hit it. Can't hit a fairway, can't make a putt. But hanging in there, and then all of a sudden I get to the back 9. I'm like even par through 12. I think 2 under got through. So I'm like, I realize I have to shoot a couple under. And then I hit a couple balls out of bounds.
Oh, no.
Like the 14th hole. No, right. I was left all day. So I overcorrected. And it was on one of those holes where you have 1 million yards of room on the opposite side of the OB. And where do I hit it? OB. Not only once, but twice.
Dang.
So after that, it was kind of over. And then on like the 16th hole we're waiting, it was up in Sacramento, and it was about 104 degrees that day. It was miserable.
Ooh.
So
did you keep your clothes on?
There was a pond.
Some of them. So we get to the 16th hole, then I hit a couple more balls out of bounds, and then I'm just like, okay, I think I ran out of balls.
Oh, no. Jeez.
Well, because I hit a couple balls in the car pass, so usually when that happens, I just throw the ball away. I don't need it, I don't. And so I ran out of balls, and that was that. So
you're not like hanging it up, right? I mean,
no. There's the Monterey Open in a month. I'll always play. I don't know if I mentioned this in the past, but I love professional golf. I love competitive golf, and I'll always play. It's just some people realize, and more amateurs don't understand how much preparedness goes into playing golf.
It's called preparation, you mean?
Yeah, how much? Yeah, whatever. How much preparation goes into playing golf? Not only particularly at a high level, but just for fun. You see all these guys. Like, for example, I had a guy recently. He started off poorly, and he comes up to me and he tells me, "Hey, can you tell the other caddy to not talk so much?"
Wow.
Because it was.
Gee, I wonder if you were
Was
with
it
G
me?
that day.
Fortunately, it wasn't G. It was someone else. But he was just having a poor day, and I asked him. I was trying to calm him down. I kind of take that as a challenge when people aren't playing well to try to help them out. So I was, giving him a little pep talk, and he started playing worse and worse, and he was getting red in the face, and all his playing buddies were having the time of their life. Mm-hmm. And he just gets so upset. And I said, John, Bob, how often do you play in practice? Oh, it's been a few months.
Yeah, there you go.
So it's just people, they need to just relax, not be so uptight on the golf course. And I know that personally. When I'm not playing well, I feel like I'm Bob. But, you just relax a little bit, enjoy yourself.
It's a good point. I mean, if you don't put in the work and put in the time to practice, can you really be that mad when you're playing poorly?
100%.
I mean, how are you that mad? You're out here at one of the most beautiful places in the world. You put in no time to try to improve your game. So you're out here and you're playing like you always do at home, and you're mad. It's like,
Well,
get out of here.
I think that every golfer, regardless of your ability, thinks about the best golf swing or best golf shot you ever hit, or the best shot you hit at that hole in particular, or the best round of your life. Mm-hmm. And the reality is, that was back when you were 25 and you'd no commitments in life. You were enjoying your golf. You were playing 4 times a week. Mm-hmm. You might even practice once a week. And that's the high point. So it could be a little bit high. Yeah, it could be like a little bit like a fan of a sports franchise like Manchester United right now. They expect to be competing for things because for so long, for a quarter century, they literally were one of the top teams in Europe. Now they're just garbage, right? Because of whatever.
We would equate that to the New England Patriots here in America.
There you go. That's it. So, yeah, you be realistic based upon what you put in. But what do you think's missing, Eddie?
When I look back at the times that I was playing well, I was playing with other players of my same ilk. I was playing other professionals. I was practicing every day. Now my preparation consists of going to my local muni course, essentially, going to hit balls off a mat range and playing with 5-10 handicaps, giving them a stroke a hole and trying to be competitive. That's the most competition that I'm getting right now. So it's like anything else. When you're surrounded by people doing the same thing, it just makes you better. So, living here in California, not being around any other professionals clearly has an impact on my game. And when you're playing with players that are even better than you, it makes you more competitive. It makes 100%. It makes you want the desire to go out and practice and get better is a lot higher. Yeah. Like when I was in college, you're always out there competing with your teammates and trying to get better, and you guys are, making each other better. And I just don't have that here, so I have to find a way to do that. But with that being said, when I look back at the times that I've lived here and I try to play tournaments, my play is not very good because I'm not competing against other players, other pros, and who are shooting 65 every day. If I go out and I shoot 62 at Seascape, the other guys shot 75, 76. Oh, great, but they didn't really push me. Is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, he's one arm bandit and blind in his right eye. Exactly. So basically, what I'm hearing, advice for the listeners, because we have to move on, would be, hey, Johnny Hack, drop the dead wood, get rid of anyone that's worse than you, and find better golfers to play with.
Exactly.
Is that right, Zabbo?
Drop the hacks and start playing with Eddie.
There you go. Right, we're going to play a quick call to arms, it's called right now, and we'll be back with mailbag, questions, shout-outs, and some other bits and pieces. Firstly, I'd like to thank you all for being loyal listeners to the Real Life Caddie podcast. Myself, Zabbo, and everyone else who's involved in the podcast love sharing our stories and contributing to the world of golf, and we'll continue to churn out episodes for as long as the demand is there. Without listeners, there would be little point in producing the podcast. However, I'd like to ask for just a little more support. There are a number of ways you can do this. Firstly, you can follow us on all the social media platforms: Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can email us questions and feedback, or leave us fan mail. We have a YouTube channel, so if you have a YouTube account, just search for Glorified Donkey and subscribe to the channel. It's also helpful if you leave a rating and review of the podcast on whatever podcasting app or platform that you use. If you're feeling generous, you can visit our website, glorifieddonkey.com, and follow the link to buy some GD swag or even buy us a beer. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, keep listening and share the podcast with fellow golfers. Every little helps, and we really appreciate your continued support. Now that's out the way, we can get back to the episode. So there you go, folks. That's how you can certainly support us.
Yes. Get on there. Help us out.
Make some caddies happy. Mm-hmm. Right, we're going to crack on with the mailbag, boys. We get quite a bit in here, okay? So
let's hear it.
Do we have fan mail as well, or just mail?
We do. I don't know if we'll have time, though.
Okay.
We can always roll that into the next. I never got to tell my story about the most angry golfer I've ever met in a course.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
That's going to be...
Or I didn't even tell one about the podcast listener. I'll give him a shout out, but we'll tell the story later.
I know. Yeah. The plan was to play golf once a week this year.
How many times you played this year?
3.
Twice.
Miserable.
Twice.
Absolutely miserable. First question. In the past, Zabbo has mentioned he used to work in a call centre. Mike, are there any similarities to call centre work and caddying? And are there any funny stories from your time doing that job? That's from Jerry in Las Vegas.
Jerry, wow, you're bringing up something I mentioned very briefly, like in one of the first episodes I was on. So he's obviously gone back and listening. And honestly, I didn't really work in a call center. Before I moved here to California, I was actually training to work in a call center. I was
You weren't even in the call center, you were training.
So normally in the summer times when I lived in Florida, I would go north to Boston to caddy because there's no work for caddies in the summers when I started caddying. And then, so I went to Boston for a couple summers. Then my last one, I was like, you know what? I just want to stay in Florida. There's no work. I'm gonna be a telemarketer for the summer. You know, make a little dough, pay the rent and all that. So I was in the call center training for the work, and my good buddy Josh Fisher calls me while I'm in training, and I'm sitting in the back, and I answer my phone. I'm like, Fish, I'll call you back in like 30 minutes. I'm training for this telemarketing job. So I get out, and I knew what he was going to ask. He's like, "Get out here to California." Where I'm talking. I'm going to say, "I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving Florida. I'm happy here. I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving. I'm not going to let him talk me into it." So I call Fish, and we're on the phone for like 10 minutes. And he's like, I was like, "All right, I'll be out there next week." And I moved to California, West Virginia. So in all fairness, Jerry, I don't really know much about working in the telemarketing area, but I imagine it's kind of like caddying. You know, people shun you a lot. They hang up on you. They give up on you. But I don't really. They blame you.
Blame you for having a bad day.
They blame you for every problem in their life. Like, why the hell are you bugging me? And
they judge you, not even knowing you.
I'm sure there are a lot of parallels, but I really wouldn't know because I never really worked.
The funniest story you'd have is it never actually happened.
That's true. That's true.
I always like when a telemarketer calls me, I say, "Hey, give me your phone number and I'll call you right back."
Exactly.
And they're like, "What? Huh? Who? What? Huh?"
You ever had a job out with the golf industry? Have you ever had a proper job, Eddie?
Caddy?
No, that's exactly. That's why I say proper.
The wheels were turning.
I did work in a restaurant for 2 weeks back in the day.
2 weeks.
Yeah, my friends had the over-under on a month. So
2 weeks it was.
How was it?
I was a food runner at a restaurant back home in Santa Cruz, and 2 weeks was all I can handle.
In all fairness, he was polite. He gave us 2 weeks after his first day, so he thought he would have had a day.
I show up.
He's like, I'm going to put in my 2 weeks today.
Yeah, they'd be like, "Hey, where's the runner? Oh, he's eating. He's eating. He
ain't running."
Imagine. I can only imagine. Okay, our good friend Chang.
Oh, here we go, Chang.
So Chang,
thanks for your text the other day, Cho.
If you play 100 rounds of golf a year, what range of handicap should you expect to have?
100 rounds a year, so you're playing twice a week.
3 days.
I mean, are you practicing it all? You're just playing 100.
As an average person, like,
yeah.
If Gordon goes out and plays 3 rounds a year or 3 rounds
100 rounds a year, I'd be expecting to be off plus. Like
it depends
twice
how much
a week.
Because you can go play 100 rounds a year, but if you're not if you're just playing and you're not trying to sharpen your craft,
mid-teens.
Yeah, I mean, there's people who play twice a week and they're 15, 20 handicap. So it's tough to put a number on something like that. But yeah, if I was playing twice a week and not about scratch, I wouldn't be playing.
There's also a guy I know who's been playing for 40 years and he's a 20 handicap.
Yeah, it's
and
crazy.
I try to help him and he can't get better. Yeah. So it just kind of depends on the individual.
Give it up.
If you've been playing for 5+ years at this rate, should you expect to break 90 regularly? Well, absolutely.
Yes.
Of course. Unless you're Eddie's pal.
Are you hinting at something, Chang? Are you hinting that you're upset with how you're playing with your 100 rounds a year?
Exactly. He's at least 100, I'd imagine.
But he's like a 4 or 5, isn't he? Maybe 6.
Yeah, I also asked, does all this have to deal with athletic ability?
No.
Look
at Craig Stadler, Kevin Stadler, Colt Knost,
John Daly, yeah, all of those guys.
Hey, Big G and Zabbo, was listening to your latest pod, and like always, it provided me with a jolly good chuckle and reminded me of aspects of my recent golf journey. Your discussion of the LW.
The LW.
Reminded me of a recent trip to Japan with 3 mates. We played 7 courses. On most courses, we had 1 caddy for the group. Each course had a different way for the caddies to transport our bags. Now, we sent a few photos, by the way.
Nice.
Absolutely. I'll show you those after, boys. I've attached a photo of one of them and a video of the driverless carts at another course.
I heard about those. Yeah, they follow him around.
The first video is, or first photo is of this little Japanese lady, looks like Zabbo, with, she's on like an LV type thing, and she's wearing a kagul, how would you call it, a rain jacket, but it's a whole one piece that covers her and the actual
nice
cart.
Sun protection, bro. Smart.
No, it's raining.
Oh,
right.
Even better.
And you just see her little head popping out the top like a Christmas tree. Right. Classic. He says, the other photo of a caddy with Mount Fuji in the background. Very nice.
Beautiful.
All the caddies wore similar uniforms, and I discovered the hats were actually hard hats. Do you think uniforms and this level of safety equipment should be mandatory? He says, I'm guessing not. I think uniform is something that is definitely we should be a lot more.
Oh, for sure.
Strict on.
It looks ridiculous out here. But the hard hat's a good point, because there was a couple of caddies, certainly one in particular, that was wearing a helmet all the time.
Isn't it funny how he doesn't feel the same way anymore?
That is pretty funny, yeah.
It's like,
screw it.
He took his safety very seriously for 1 year,
Yeah,
and then ditched the hat.
Nothing.
Well, as Big G can attest to, there's been a few times that we've caddied over the last year where I've almost gotten hit.
Correct.
Well, in all fairness, you never pay attention anyway.
Well, no. It's happened to me 2 or 3 times where I'm on the green, and of course, a guy who's playing from the white tees who hits it 300 plus yards. Caddy doesn't realize that that's about what it is from the white tees to get to the green around the dog leg. And I had a ball zipping by my head one time. There was one time at Spyglass where I almost got hit, and the ball ended up right by my feet. And
there's close calls all the time.
Ball ended up in my pouch.
Ooh.
Or, what did we do with it, G?
Put it in your. Well, I told you to pick it up, put it in your pocket, and we walked to the green.
Walk away, yeah.
No. We walked to the green. We looked back, and they're all looking for the ball.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, it's over there, guys, somewhere.
Yeah,
I saw
right
it back
there.
there. Yeah, it's right there. It was in the fairway right there.
I remember saying to my player, I said, hilarious. I said, they're all over there looking. There's zero chance of them finding that. He goes, why is that? I said, because it's in Eddie's pocket.
So maybe the hard hat will be come into play soon.
I think there has to be some. But he says,
Not a
he
bad
continues, in Japan, tipping for anything is not customary.
I can tell.
Yeah,
I can tell.
We can tell as a caddy out here.
We were told more than once there is no need to tip the caddies. Ouch.
Ouch, don't say that.
However, after listening to your pod for so long and how you disparage us Australians for being poor tippers, I told my mates we needed to tip, but it had to be done discreetly. We took envelopes from the hotel and over lunch each round, because he says you go for lunch for about 45 minutes to an hour after 9 holes.
Yeah, and they discreetly slipped them $20.
Yeah, I was going to say 5. Being Australians, it's probably they all chipped together and they gave one envelope with a $5.
All ones.
We gave them the tips, so fantastic.
What is
well
it
done.
about? Like, I mean, I Australians, very, very nice people, but it's true almost across the board. Awful.
Tighter than 2 coats of paint.
It's crazy.
That comes from Michael Barr, by the way, from Australia.
Well, thanks for listening,
Thank
Michael.
you,
I
Mike.
love the
Cheers,
Australians.
He's a long-term listener. He did go on to talk about some close calls about being hit in the golf course, but we've covered that already there. I do remember that, Eddie. This ball flew over Eddie's shoulder. It was absolutely shocking.
Thanks, Big G, for coming to my defense for that, by the way.
Not to... Well, no, just any caddy, I'll go to the defence. It wasn't particularly you. I actually think if it hit you in the head, it wouldn't have done any damage. It might have done you some good.
Knocked some sense into him, yeah.
Heard that one before.
We had another guy called Dan Pedersen, and he's from Calgary, which is...
In
Canada.
Canada, eh?
Canada.
Pretty cold in Calgary in the winter.
And he had an interesting trip to St Andrews,
Nice.
where they had 3 different caddies with very, very different experience. A guy called Simon who bitched about everything. He was like,
That doesn't sound like a Scot at all.
well, settle down over there. Jeez, listen to him. I tell you what, he's been on the Brave pills this morning. Just talking about how he hated the St Andrews Trust. He hated the calibre of player at the old course. And then every time he could, he reminded the players that he was self-employed and he could walk off the course whenever he wanted.
Just so you know, I don't have to be here.
Oh, and then there was another guy called Dougie, and he said he was an interesting lad, a little bit weird, off-the-wall stories, philosophizing about how he lived in a bathtub Oh, you know what I mean? So, and then he said there was HP sauce, which is, the brown sauce, all over his bib. And then they finally had a guy called Neil who carried for Dan's daughter. And he said he was the absolute best, very, patient, super respectful. And he said, needless to say, Neil's tip was significantly better than the other boys.
Of course.
So he actually says, I know you'll hate to hear it. I'm absolutely over the moon to hear that, dude.
Yeah, of course.
You got to pay for what you get.
Exactly. Pay for your level of service.
Next one. This is for you, G and Zabbo. Dear Gordon and Mike. Oh, Gordon, very formal.
Ooh, and Mike.
Very few people call me Gordon.
Very few people call me Mike.
I was recently listening to your August 28th episode, and my ears perked up when I heard Mike say that he would be very disappointed if his daughter became involved with a caddy.
This has got to be my sister. Oh, no, this is my mother-in-law. I guarantee you it is.
My daughter not only became involved with a caddy, she married him.
Yes, of course, it's my mother-in-law.
Our family has loved him from day one.
Oh, Gene.
And it is no secret in our family that he is now my favorite child.
Yeah,
Keep up the good work, guys. Big Gene.
That is Big Gene.
Well, there you go.
I love. That's terrific. That's funny. I had no idea that question was coming up, but as soon as you started saying that, I was like,
yeah,
it's got to be my mother-in-law.
Do you know?
Dedicated podcast listener.
Oh, when I get married, the wife was like, "No, you can't be a caddy."
Yeah.
I don't know, what is it about us that has this reputation? Is it?
I don't know, but it's funny you say that when you marry. Because I told my wife when we started dating, I was like, just so you know, this is what I do and what I'm probably going to do the rest of my life. I mean, I plan on caddying until retirement. So it's like, if you're not okay with that, then probably not going to work out. So, but I'd say and it's funny because my sister-in-law, she must have listened to who's Big Gene's other daughter, must have listened to the episode the other day because she's like, don't marry a caddy, ha ha ha, laughing emojis. But it's true. I wouldn't want my daughter to get involved because by and large,
we're scum.
We are scum. We're caddies. I mean, we're scum. We have vices, bad habits. I mean, we're scum. By and large.
In the eyes of some. But
there's exceptions to the rule. I'd say, 400 caddies we probably have. I'd say, 300 of them are probably pretty unsavory.
I think it's the most eclectic group of people you'll ever meet in your life.
Oh, it's
I agree
crazy.
with that. Mm-hmm.
You look at some of the people, like, you could write a book in this guy, and you couldn't even put him in that book because you couldn't even explain his lifestyle. People wouldn't understand what this guy does. Like, outside of work, you wouldn't want to know what this guy does. I mean, we have some weird characters.
The place in South Carolina that I worked had a very small barn, 40 to 50, and I'll tell you, it was even more eclectic on the level that we have here.
Seriously? Wow, that's impressive.
For such a small barn. And the nicknames were incredible. Just the characters. There was one dude from Wisconsin. He polished his car every day.
Nice.
He'd take a 24-pack of Bud and he would drive out onto the point. He'd carry in the morning, go out, and he would polish the car.
Got 98 Trans Am. Gotta keep it nice.
It was like a 1990 Ford Explorer.
Yeah, there you go. Wow.
And this is probably going back to about 2007.
Gotta keep it clean, bro.
So it was all 20-year-old, Ford Explorer. But he would go out every day and polish it for 3 hours.
Everybody's got their
just
pride.
Tweaking away.
Yeah.
But it must be tough, like when you go for dates, Eddie, do you ever tell the guys that you're a caddy or a golf pro?
It's funny, the reactions you get when you tell a girl that you caddy. They're like, wait, what exactly are
what is that?
What do you do? And then I kind of explain to them, and the reactions you get are funny. And in fact, I've talked to other caddies, and they say like, oh, I tell my girl still doesn't understand what I do. I've been with her for a few years, and he goes, honey, I had the greatest day caddying. And she goes, what did you even do? I had a great day. I met these new friends. They live here. They want me to come out and play with them. I guess they just don't understand that. Sometimes caddying is really fun.
It is.
It's brilliant.
I mean, you meet some of the people we've met and will have forever connections with is amazing. And you won't meet those people unless you're on the golf course.
Correct.
Caddying for them.
Correct. The networking is incredible, more so than any other job out there, I would say. I mean, the people we come in contact with, it's insane.
Access, and then you get people at their best. Because we always get asked the question. We have a lot of mailbag questions over the years. How many assholes do you meet? And you're like, very, very few.
Very few.
Because where we're at, people are. This is bucket list number one, or it could be they're on their holidays. They're with their mates. They're drinking cocktails, listening to music. Like how?
If you're not happy to be here, something's seriously wrong.
Absolutely. So no, I've thought about it at length. I'm talking a long time now. I think we have one of the most unique jobs there is.
Agreed. And I wouldn't want to do anything else.
There is, because when you take you could have one guy that you're working for, two guys that you're working for, one group that you're carrying for 4 days. And each day will be completely different depending on the equilibrium of that individual.
Right? Different levels of sobriety, different substances in the system.
So you get three, 4 different courses, different experiences.
Different weather.
Is Zabbo driving the LW? Is he carrying bags?
Yes. What could happen?
He doesn't carry bags anymore.
Carried bags plenty.
Is he driving a car? You know, the interactions with the marshals or with the cart staff or the pro shop staff. There are so many variables that our day is the weather, the individuals. As I say, there is nothing like it. And then the fact that we spend so much time with these people.
That's very well said, G. Everything you just said was accurate. Every day is different, and the amount of time it's crazy. We spend 100 times more time with the guests than anybody on property. I mean, we get to know these guests on a personal level. Nobody else on the resort can really say that.
No, or in life.
In life, exactly.
And sometimes it's fun. Like you wake up, you're like, I look forward to going out.
Oh, for sure.
It's like they become your friends, right?
For sure.
And a lot of people get up and they dread going to work. We wake up, we have no idea what's going to happen that day, and we could form a new friendship for life.
Exactly.
It's amazing.
Now, in the middle of the podcast there, we had a little call to arms. I just wanted to read out a couple of reviews of the podcast. This one was from a BL Pawn Star on Apple Podcasts.
Porn star or Pawn Star?
Pawn.
Okay.
Pawn, mate.
Well, he's obviously playing off of words, isn't he? You know what I mean? The only legit caddy pod. As a former caddy at Pinehurst Resort and then assistant caddy master at Pinehurst, ended my care as caddy master at Piedmont Driving Club. This is the best podcast.
PDC.
This is the best podcast, the most accurate podcast in the world of resort caddies. Thank you.
Before you move on, Piedmont Driving Club, for the listeners out there, Google search that one. They have probably the best story of all time involving debauchery at a golf course. Have you never heard? Oh
no, but I tell you,
look it up. We'll talk about. We'll get this guy on to talk.
I'll tell you
about
what, Zal, we'll get your notes out. You get your pencil out.
Okay,
add that to your notes for next time.
Oh, dude.
The next one was from an AZ Timmy. I'm guessing that's Arizona Timmy. Best podcast in golf. I absolutely love these guys and this podcast. Highly recommended. Thank you, boys.
Timmy. Yeah.
So you can help us out by leaving a review on either Spotify or
Apple Podcasts.
Now, boys, we got to crash on. Get the shout outs. What we got?
Got to shout all the Southwestern Interior boys are back in town. It is September. Got to shout out McCoppin, McCadden. Got to shout Delin. She's playing in the U.S. Senior Women's Amateur. Well, it's not
going to be a professional, is it?
The Senior Women's Am up in Washington.
That's a mouthful.
Seattle. So good on you, Delin. We're rooting for you. Got to shout out Dion and Barry. Dion, you were out of town for that one. Dedicated podcast listener from Ireland. And so is Barry.
Ireland. Yeah. Yes.
Oh man, they were laughs and so much fun. Dion listens to all the podcasts. Barry, I'm not sure if he's a listener, but he was, Dion's he listens and he knows what drives us crazy. Barry took forever over the golf ball, and he's like, "This is driving you nuts, isn't it?" I was like, "You have no idea." He's like, "Yeah, it drives me nuts too."
Yeah.
He plays super slow, but
bartender in New York.
He is a bartender. He was trying to talk his wife into maybe making her way out this way.
Seriously?
I said, he said it's probably going to be a hard sell, but I said, "Come on out, Dion. Glad to have him." Yep.
Eddie, who you got?
I want to shout out Big G and Zabbo. Good to be back here with you guys. Big G was gone for a while. Good to have you back in Land of the Free. And look forward to working with you boys soon. Yeah, always a crack working with these fellas.
We'll have you. It's all a bit of crack, not a crack.
Oh, it's a bit of crack. It's a bit of a crack, mate.
Just a bit of crack.
Yeah. It's a bit of crack.
It's Sweeties. What is it?
The Balfour Beaties.
Balfour Beaties. I still have that in my head sometimes.
Tremendous, isn't it? And I have a Robert Faraco. He is a caddy at Pinehurst who was out here about 6 weeks ago. Top lad.
Playing?
Pardon?
Playing? He was out here playing, or what?
Yeah, he was playing with
nice.
his mum, actually. His mum and his sister.
Cool.
And I think his cousin. If you're going to Pinehurst to play, check Robert out. He's on Instagram. Bob I, right? So BOBBAYYE. Why do people have to have such a complicated name?
Make it easy
underscore.
to find. Yeah.
Yeah, Robert Faraco, Faraco. I told him that I would let everyone know. And if you're going
Look
there,
him up.
he seems he was fantastic at the golf course. Like, what a joy to work for.
You just randomly get paired with him, or
No, one of my pals
Set up,
carried for them and brought me in for the last couple of days. But
Nice.
what a joy to carry for. Like,
fellow caddy.
can I do this for you? Can I do this for you? Oh, okay.
No.
Eddie would have loved this. Actually, both of you didn't love that job, actually.
Was it off the Elwood?
Tell him to call me when I'm back in town.
And I have my last shout outs for Christina. Christina, you know who you are. We had to endure it together, and I will tell the story.
Is this that paid for an hour at the hotel?
Oh, easy now. Easy now.
We endured it together.
Zabbo, tell you what,
Don't worry, the wife's not here.
we all have to go to work now.
We do. We're actually working together today.
Yeah, Zabbo, we have a very interesting one. Well, this could be more material because it's Southern
jeez.
California.
Ooh, there's always a story that
See what
comes
that
from them.
means.
Certain type from Southern California, so there could be some footage coming up. Eddie, as always, thank you, mate. Good luck with the golf.
Thank you guys. Great to be
Zabbo,
here again.
As always.
Thank you.
We'll be back in 2 weeks' time with more
will.
stories.
Of course.
Thank you, boys. To the listeners, thanks for listening. But more importantly,
Keep it humble.